What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the ShockerRacing Garage. I am James, and today we are working on another project with the Neon Bronco. Now, you've all probably just recently seen us do the wrap on the Bronco. This is the 3M Neon Orange wrap. And today we are going to be working on upgrading the sound on this thing. Yes, that's right. We are going to upgrade the exhaust system and basically be ditching this giant heavy muffler off the back of the Bronco. Now when I say giant, I am not kidding. This muffler that sits up underneath the back of the Bronco is absolutely ridiculous. This thing is massive, and I don't know, I should get a scale out and weigh it because it's super heavy, and it's going to be getting replaced by that. That's going to be the new muffler for the AWE Tuning exhaust. Now we were lucky enough, our friends over at AWE Tuning sent us out one of their earliest exhaust kits. We chose to go with the dual 4.5-inch black diamond tips, or diamond black tips. So it's gonna have dual tips coming out the back that will be black, and they're gonna be 4.5 inches. So it's gonna look pretty sweet sticking out the back of the Bronco. Now what's really cool about the AWE exhausts is that they are going to offer a couple of different combinations for your tips. Like I said, I'm going to get the dual exhaust tips. They do have a single tip, and then every one of their systems going to be including what they're calling their bash guard. Basically what it is when you're ready to hit the trails and you're not cruising the malls, you'll be able to pop the tips off with one bolt and easily swap it back out for their bash guard version, which is basically just a dump under there that's not going to get smashed up on rocks and damage your exhaust system when you're out on the trails. This is going to give you really high clearance for off-roading, and again, it's going to clear up a lot of space up underneath the back that is going to take a beating when you're climbing rocks and stuff. Now, for those of you that have been watching our Jeep videos, you'll get it, because it's essentially what I've been doing with our Jeep Gladiator. I've got my big exhaust tip that's a side exit tip on the Gladiator for when I'm on the street, and when I'm ready to hit the trails, one bolt undoes it, I slide it off, I put the little dump tip back on, and I'm ready to hit the trails without having my exhaust tip compromised. Now I'm excited to get this whole exhaust system installed and hear how this Bronco sounds, because I know AWE does their homework and make sure that they pick exhaust notes that are going to really complement the vehicle. So we're going to get right into this, get this thing installed, show you how simple and easy it is. I have already removed the stock muffler, and I did that for my last project I'm still working on, about to finish up. I installed a bunch of rock lights underneath the Bronco here, and one of the locations I wanted to mount them was in the center up underneath, right where this big muffler was sitting. So now that I took that out of the way, I was able to mount 2 rock lights up under there on the heat shield, and I'll show you a little sneak peek of that when I'm installing this thing here. Now, one of the other really cool things I'm noticing as I was kind of laying things out and checking through the instructions for the install is that they've designed this whole exhaust system so that it will work whether you've got the 2.7 liter motor or the 2.3 liter, or a 4-door and a 2-door. Basically, if I had a 2-door, I would just leave this section out right here. And then they do come with a different exhaust hanger bracket for if you have the 2.3 liter motor. Now, I've got the 2.7, so it doesn't look like I'm going to need that different hanger bracket. So I should be able to just install this thing basically the way it's laid out here. So basically, I just need to jump under here and get the rest of the exhaust removed. Basically, I've got it disconnected right after the rear axle here. There's one bolt that holds the stock muffler in, and then 2 clamps. Once you unbolt that and get the 2 clamps, I was able to just slide the muffler out of the way, and now I can finish getting the rest of the pipes out. So in the hardware box here, basically once you open this up, you're going to see the dual black exhaust tips along with the different mounting hardware and bolts and stuff. This is where all the clamps were, but I've already taken them out and laid them out. And then that's the exhaust hanger adjuster bracket if you have a different motor. But like I was starting to say, is their instructions are right here. They give you this card. You just scan this QR code, and it'll bring you to the installation instructions, which again are full color, look super nice. I'll give you a little sneak peek of that here on the laptop. So once you scan the code on that card, it's going to bring you to this website that's going to give you pretty much all the instructions and tips and everything. It's got your parts list for the different versions of the exhaust, and so that's going to be the bash guard piece right there. Otherwise, this is the full exhaust system with the 4-door extension right there. So simple enough, and just make sure you pay attention to these instructions, because there are a few tips and tricks that you'll want to see, but I'm also going to try to show you some of those while we're working here. Okay, so looking up underneath the rear of the Bronco here, you'll see where I mounted my 2 rock lights on the heat shield here, because this is where that giant muffler sat. There's basically, on the passenger side, all the way in the rear, you've got this one hanger here with the rubber mount. You're going to reuse all these for the AWE exhaust, so make sure you keep those handy. Also, this is where the second one was. This is on the driver's side underneath, right by where you undo this one bolt for the clamp from the over the axle tube, and then the whole muffler was able to just drop down and out of the way super quick and easy. So now I need to move to the other side of the axle so that I can start disassembling the rest of the exhaust all the way back to the cats. Okay, so moving to the front side of the axle, you'll see the over the axle pipe comes up and over and into one clamp here. So we'll pop that out of the clamp, and then moving all the way up to the front here. My lighting's moved in the back, but you'll see it's just 2, I believe they're the 15mm bolts, one on each side here. That's going to come right after the, basically the Catback system here. And we're going to have to disconnect this one hanger bracket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbolt these 2 first, get it loose and separated from the front half of the exhaust, and then we can remove the 2 hangers and drop this last pipe out. Make sure you save these 2 nuts that you just took off, because they are going to be reused for the exhaust. So keep those handy somewhere. Now these look like smaller bolts here, so I'm going to grab a different socket, and then we'll remove this clamp, and then we'll have to just work with the rear one. Okay, so these are 10s. Just grab your 10mm and go ahead and pull those out. And you're also going to reuse these with this clamp, so keep these by your side. Okay, so we are loose and out of the exhaust there. Now we just got to move back and get it out of the rear hanger here, and we should be able to drop this whole exhaust down. Okay, if you don't have one of these exhaust hanger removal tools, I highly recommend picking one up. I got this on Amazon super cheap, but they work really nicely. Make removing these hangers so much easier. And just like that, it's down. And I can work this out. And again, I'm doing this on the ground. I'm not on a lift or on jack stands or anything. So this whole pipe drops out nice and easy without it being lifted up at all. Okay, so this is basically the entire stock Catback system, going all the way from the cat's back up over the axle. That's all one pipe, and that goes right into the muffler. So from the factory, it essentially sits just like this, going into the muffler, and then the tip turning down on the passenger side. Okay, so we need to remove the stock hanger off the mid pipe to be reused on the new muffler. So hopefully I can just pull this off by hand. If not, I might need to grab my exhaust clamp thing, but let's see what happens. And also pay attention to the orientation of this pin. That I believe will need to go on the top side of when we install it on the new one. Okay, that pulled off, just needed a little pulling. And now we can put it on the new one. So grabbing the muffler section here, which is also labeled as E34. All their pipes are nicely labeled. We're going to take the clamp and we're going to just slide it back over. All right, and there it is. Okay, so oftentimes when you start installing an exhaust system, exhaust companies will tell you to wait until the very end to finish tightening everything up. In this case, AWE does want you to mount the muffler section up here and fully tighten everything. So we're going to zip everything down, and then they do recommend at the end that you torque everything. I think it said 60 foot-pounds, but we'll double check that when we finalize everything at the end. But I will zip these tight when I lock in the bracket here and the nuts for the to the cat pipe. Okay, so we're going to slide the two bolts through into here, and I'm just going to lightly start these nuts to hold everything on here. Oops, maybe. Okay. This way it won't fall off and knock me in the head or something. Okay. Now that pin that I said you needed to make sure was aligned here to the top side, there is an alignment hole right in here. So go ahead and put that in there. And then we're going to go ahead and start the two bolts. These are the 10mm ones. And zip these in. Nice and tight. Okay, so those are pretty snug. Now I just got to switch back over to the 15mm, and then I can tighten down these other two bolts. I am going to need some sort of a swivel to get to that one, but it looks like I can zip that one in pretty good. So I'll grab a swivel for my socket here so I can get this last one tightened down. Okay, so I've got all four of these nice and snug for now, and we can keep working our way back. All right, so because we have a 4-door, we now want to grab the next piece of pipe, which is the 4-door extension, which is part number E35. And basically, you want to set up a clamp on the end here so it's ready to go near the slip joint here. And this is just going to slide over the end of the muffler that we just installed. And then we're going to lightly snug this down just enough to hold it in place so that we can keep working our way towards the back. So you want to make sure that you bury this as far on as you can onto the muffler section, and you also want to make sure that the bend of this bends away from the drive shaft right here. So you want that bending towards the outside of the vehicle. Again, just make sure it's fully buried so that you can't see any gap in here. You may want to take a rubber mallet and kind of hammer it on, just make sure it's fully on, but feels like mine went on, buried itself pretty good. And then I'm just going to take the clamp. You always want to make sure that you put the clamp all the way to the edge here so that you get a nice good seal, so you don't end up with any leaks or anything like that, okay? Okay, and then these clamps, you're going to use a 16mm to tighten them down. And again, I'm not going to tighten this fully. I'm just going to snug this so that it holds it in place. Okay, and then we can move along to the over the axle section here. Okay, so this is the over the axle section here. I've got my clamp on here lined up, ready to go. And then this is going to be going into the factory rubber clamp. But what I wanted to show off, and this is one of the cool things I like about AWE, is that they put their little AWE serialized number plate on here. Okay, and before we go and mount up this over axle tube, you're going to also want to make sure you grab your lock collars here. We are going to be using both of these because we do have the dual exhaust system. So what these are going to do is one of them is going to slide over the hanger tube here first. Once it goes through the hanger bracket, you'll put the other one on the outside so that it locks it in place. Okay, so just like before, you're going to want to make sure you've got your clamp already pre-mounted on here. You're going to slide this pipe over. Actually, you need to make sure you tuck the over the axle piece up and over so that that's up in the air where it needs to be. And then we can go ahead and slip these two joints together. So I made sure that this is fully slipped onto the joint here. Got my clamp in place. Now we're going to move up to the mount up there. Let's see, and you can see I've already got the collar on here, so I'm going to slide it through here, and then we'll put another one of these collars on the outside, and then we can lock them in when we get everything adjusted and in place. So let's go ahead and see if I can do this film and get it in locked in here all in one. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, this has been the hardest part so far of this whole entire install or removal process. Just getting it to slide over this clamp has been kind of a bear, but I did get it most of the way over and was able to get the collars on and just kind of lightly snugged. I'm gonna come back to this and try to get it a little further on once I finish getting everything mounted up and installed. I'll come back to it. Okay, so moving to the back section, which will be after the rear axle. You're either going to have your single tip, we've got the dual tip, and the other option would be to install just the bash guard. So this pipe here is if you're going off-roading or you just want to, over the axle dump, you'd install that. But for now, we're going to install the actual dual exhaust tip so you can see the two tips coming out the back. Okay, so moving to the back, make sure you've either got your hanger bracket attached to the actual pipe, or like I've got this other one is still sitting up under here, so I'm ready to go. I just need to slide this end here right onto the over the axle pipe and lightly snug that, and then slide the brackets back into their hangers. Now I'm going to start by trying to get the one hanger on the passenger side kind of slightly started so that it's holding that end up in the air a little, and then move my way over to getting this pipe started. Okay, so that's fully on here. Got the clamp on there. Now I can try and get this other hanger held up in here. I can tell the whole thing is kind of shifted too far to the passenger side, but we will adjust that as we go. Honestly, the hardest part of this entire install is these rubber mounts, getting them into position and sliding them over the brackets here. Probably would help if I used maybe a little bit of lube or something on them, but I like to choose to do things the hard way, apparently. Okay, so I took a little bit of white lithium grease and just kind of put a little bit on these posts just to make it easier to slide in and out. And I think I still got some adjusting to do on this one, but I'll work on that after I get the tips on and kind of see how the adjustment looks and how everything's sitting. And then I can go back along and snug everything up all the way towards the front of the vehicle. So at this point, you want to grab your dual tips and the hardware that comes for tightening these onto the pipes. So I'll grab those two tips. Kim's favorite part of the packaging is the blow pop from AWE. They always seem to include that in there. I'm gonna grab my tips and get these installed. Okay, so these exhaust tips are the slanted exhaust tips, and they come with basically a bolt that drops down through into an 11mm nut. And then we're just gonna slide this on, and we will lightly snug it until we can figure out the adjustment how far in or out we want them to sit on the back of the Bronco here. So I'm not gonna use power tools for this one. I'm just gonna snug it by hand. Okay, so now because of how I've got it parked in here, ready for this live video stream I'm doing tomorrow night on All Terrain Nation, it's kind of hard to tell. I think I've got the exhaust tips lined up pretty well and they're sitting pretty level. For now, I'm going to go ahead and button up everything going from the front to the back. Make sure everything's kind of set and tightened and ready to go. After my live stream, I'll get this out of here, go for a test drive, be able to get you some, driving impressions of the exhaust and things like that. But for now, I'm just going to wrap things up, make sure everything's torqued down, and make sure I'm good to go. All right, so that is going to wrap up our AWE exhaust install for the Neon Bronco today. I hope this video has helped you make your decision and get an idea of how this exhaust sounds on the 2.7 liter motor. I will say this thing was super easy to install. All the parts were nice, high quality, went together real easily, great instructions. And I'm loving the way this thing sounds on the road, on the highway. It sounds great inside, sounds great outside. So definitely check out the AWE exhaust. I will put their information in the description so you can check it out, as well as some of the tools and stuff I used. I'll put those links in the description so you can look into those. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Comment below, let us know what you think of the exhaust. And we will see you in the next video. Make sure you stay tuned because we got a lot more coming.